The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. WealthBuilders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 192 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and back with us this week is Mr. Kevin Whelan, our founder. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well, Chris, and it's good to be with you again. And I think you did a great job in your compilations of various podcasts that are themed. And I think that was a great idea because I suppose we all live busy lives and we don't want to randomly walk through 192 episodes of podcasts. As good as they are, Chris, as good as they are, it's good to be able to focus. Say, hey, I'm interested in property. I'm interested in business. Whatever pillar you may be interested in, then you pointed them in the right direction. Did a great job. So that was great, and that gave me a little bit of time to. Yeah.
What else have you been up to in that time, Kevin?
I did a little bit of a tour around Scandinavian countries. Just thought it, would be a real good thing to do, and really enjoyed it. I went to Copenhagen and then to Gothenburg and to Stockholm, and my wife loves ABBA, so we went in expecting and we came out dancing. It was great, it was a fun place to do. Some observations as always, and it's interesting that some observations you make in countries can frame a business, can't they, Chris? As we'll hear from our guest today. But I got some fascinating insights on my Scandinavian trip. And by the way, Chris, you know that I've studied French and I've studied Spanish, and my English isn't too bad, but I found my Danish wasn't as good. No. I tried a few words, and my favorite words in Danish, right, is rødgrød med fløde, which means strawberries and cream.
Right, okay.
So, I do like to give it a go, but, in Sweden and in Denmark, they teach kids English from the age of 7. So they are just brilliant at it by the time they get to 18. Everybody speaks English, and they don't let you speak any other language. So it's not like at the French, you go to France, you don't try, they look down their nose at you, certainly in Paris. But they're just a lovely, lovely group of people. I enjoyed my time there very much. And I noticed one thing which caught me out. So I got a bit of a wealth building lesson there, Chris.
Okay, yeah, tell us, please.
So I went there thinking, well, I might as well load up on a bit of currency because I hate the banks taking money out of my money just because I, make a transaction. So I took a healthy amount of both Danish and Swedish krona. I couldn't spend a bloody penny. Couldn't spend a krona. Could not spend it because they're virtually cashless.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't get a cup of coffee. They would not let you pay with cash. So I've got, do you remember that comedic sketch going back years? Loads of money.
Yes, I do. Harry Enfield.
Harry Enfield carrying a watch. I don't want a crowd to go, loads of money, have a coffee. Couldn't spend a thing.
No.
Anyway, but joking aside, it just sort of made me realize that different countries give you different lessons. And in Denmark and in Sweden, they are brought up to know that there's so few people speak those Germanic languages. I mean, their base is Germanic, that they have to speak English, and fair play to them. And as a result of that, they can go really wherever they want to, whereas English speaking. So they often do that in the same way as Australians and New Zealanders often do that. But the thing that on the cashless side was interesting for me was, how are the kids in Sweden and Denmark going to get to understand the true value of money? Notes and coins, okay, they're getting less these days. But of course, they're the very foundation on which we learn. And it made me think more about the Wealth Builders Families program and bring in some tools and lessons to help parents show kids and help do like basic maths. Here's some money in a game you can play with your children, and what's the change? so that they actually feel and touch money in a way that they don't do in other countries. I just don't like the idea that somehow kids can assume literally money's available on tap. And I mean tap, a different kind of tap, obviously. Just here we go, tap, here we go, tap. And I think it removes the sense of value. And I'd like to make sure, as part of our resources, Chris, we use some coins and notes in our teachings for the younger children so that they get to understand that money is based on notes and coins in circulation. But, fascinating trip, and thanks for asking about that. And I think what's interesting in our guest today is the observation that in different countries, while the wealth building principles apply wherever you live in the world, we won't be translating them into Swedish, I'm sure. So we'll keep the wealth builder principles alive. However, I think it's important to stress that in some other countries, the way the practical operation of certain rules and legals work can make you have to change your approach completely. And we saw that with our guest today, who's Guillaume Black, who's a French guy who's built a business in the UK now. And I've shared a stage with him on more than one occasion, actually, now. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with Guillaume. I'm always in awe of anybody who creates a business in a country where it's not their first language. Just completely in awe. But done a fantastic job, and you did a great job in pulling out the lessons from his experience in building his business, Property Filter, here in the UK. And just a quick note before we listen to his interview, just want to congratulate him as well on the birth of his new baby, Alea. What a beautiful name as well. So congrats to him and his partner, and congrats to you for looking after the shop while I was Scandinavian about. And hopefully we get some good value from our guest today.
Yeah, we will indeed. And I can say Guillaume also had very, very kind words to say about you too as well, Kevin. So anyway, enough of the platitudes. So let's get to our interview today with Guillaume Black, who is the CEO of Property Filter. And Guillaume's created an online software really help property investors find and manage more deals. And especially if you're someone who likes to find motivated sellers, I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation today. So let's head on over to our conversation with Guillaume Black. Guillaume, welcome to Wealth Talk today. How are you?
Very good. Thanks a lot for having me, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's really, really a pleasure to have you here. And I think we're going to be talking about something that our listeners will be very, very interested today. And at the heart of it, it's just about how can we get more deals? So if you're a property investor and you're listening now, stay tuned because Guillaume has come up with something very exciting. So let me hand it over to you just to give a little bit of background about yourself and your company, Guillaume.
Yeah, so I'm Guillaume Black. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Property Filter, and we help decisive investors excel at finding deals. We built basically an online platform which is all about finding deals, identifying motivated sellers, and a framework for you to convert really hot leads into great deals. And we've built it in a way so that very predictably you can have an endless supply of deals. So if you're in property, you can't not see this because it's where all the deals are. And ultimately, the way we are disrupting the market. More and more people are jumping on it. You don't want to miss the boat. Basically, it's going to be quite a game changer for you if you want to scale, grow, and have a predictable pipeline of good quality leads and deals.
Yeah, we've just used that word predictable, which is, a key thing that we talk about at WealthBuilders is creating predictable streams of recurring income. And whilst we're focusing, I guess, primarily on property today, we're also, of course, looking at the business pillar because you've built a really fantastic business here. But also, we can touch on some of the other pillars that you're leveraging as well and show how, all of these converge to help someone build that long-term wealth. Before we get into the details of what Property Filter is and how it helps people, Guillaume, let's look at the run-in. How did it come about? What were you doing before you started this business?
Yeah, so for 10 years, I was an engineer. I was in charge of multi-million-pound construction projects, building world record bridges and things like that. I realized my childhood dream as a career. But then, be careful what you wish for sometimes, and the novelty of traveling and things faded away with the lack of work-life balance, and I started to look at things, like the type of content the WealthBuilders are putting out and things like that. And surely there was another way for me. I've been doing stuff in property since 2012, so I did like barn conversions and some flats in France. Didn't make a nickel out of them because I had no idea what I was doing. There's no interest-only mortgages. You can't refinance. I mean, basically the refurb that I did cost more than the value of the property at the end. The kind of stuff you do when you don't know what you're, like in my hometown village, so and where there's no demand and stuff like that. So did quite a few mistakes in property, but still was working. And then I moved to UK in 2016. Kept on doing the same work. Kept on traveling around the UK, England, Wales, and stuff like that. But then really was looking for something outside of my job because surely I couldn't be doing what I was doing in the long run. And I always liked property. It's why I was attracted to it back in 2012 and because I'm a very concrete and practical guy. So it's why studying engineering I went into bridges and the construction and having seeing, and what the reason why I love properties is the reason why I had this job in the first place is you see progress, I like the refurb, I like managing projects, and that's why I got into property in the first place. But the reality is that I was working 60 hours a week for my day job, and then on the side of that, I was trying, starting this side hustle of property, and it didn't matter how much I would wake up at 5 a.m. To look for properties, book the viewings during the lunchtime, and then stack them on the weekends. The reality is that I really struggled to find deals, and what we find later on is that it's the number one skill you need as a property investor. If you can't find deals, it's a non-starter. Quite frankly, you probably can buy your one property and then you're stuck. So you need really good quality deals for you to keep the momentum going, for you to keep on adding value. And I really struggled because what I was doing was scrolling through the portals, like this, which is the main source of properties, randomly booking viewings based on the pictures, the layout, only to find myself, stacking those viewings on the weekend, like week after week, speaking with vendors who were not motivated because I could only do 4 or 5 viewings a week, and this is not enough to get lucky, if you like. So week after week, I would just delay my property progress by a week. And it took me 18 months of not achieving anything to think to myself, there's got to be a better way. So we started to build a little. So a friend of mine got on board on the property side, and we asked his brother, can you, which is like a techie guy, can you do a bit of thing for us where we just want to see motivated sellers. We just want to go and view properties where they are signed and the seller is going to be motivated. Initially, it was a very simple system, that could qualify viewings. We will only view properties if the seller has fallen through multiple times, if there were multiple reductions, if it was listed with multiple agents, if there was an indication that there was a problem, basically, because it was for sale for less than what it last sold, or things like that. And at the beginning, it was just our own thing for us, and it didn't have a name, no branding or anything. It was Le Software, and fast forward, 18 months. So 18 months of me not really achieving anything, despite doing all the right things and like most people put all the efforts, surround themselves with the right people, get the knowledge, with the likes of you guys, and but then it's really hard, to get the initial traction, and then 18 months basically of struggling, and then there was a true before and after when we had what is now Property Filter. Fast forward another 18 months, and I was full time in property. I left my career and my executive job, at this bridge building company that I've been working for 10 years, basically. Yeah. So there was a real before and after. It's called Property Filter now, not Property Finder, because the biggest problem we have is that there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of properties out there, but how do you filter out all the noise? 90% of what's on the market is a waste of time. So how do you go straight with straight to the low-hanging fruits, straight to those conversations where the vendor is going to be, motivated?
Yeah, it's a fantastic story there of the transition from, employed to entrepreneur. And I think the biggest thing is the time, isn't it? And we speak to people every day. And when we ask them, what is it that's really driving you to want to build wealth? And almost always it's more time. And, it's the one thing we all know that, we can't get any more of. And how much time you're saving here for people is just incredible. You've shown me the software, I've seen just how powerful it is. And I'm excited actually for everyone listening to, be able to get their kind of hands on it as well. And we'll talk towards the end of how people can do that. But, okay, so you talked about a problem, right? And this is typical kind of entrepreneur, isn't it? Like you experience a problem and you think, right, okay, can't see anyone else who's solving it. What can I do myself? And I guess you really just were bootstrapping in those early days, weren't you?
Yeah, but so it's interesting you use the word entrepreneur, because I was nothing but an entrepreneur, like imagine a French guy who's, socialist state, kind of education and environment, and spent 10, I never had an interview, like I got my first job, I had an interview at that time, but that was it, like you set for life, that I was probably the opposite of what you would describe as an entrepreneur, and I became so specialist in the company I used to work for that basically I was comfortable, and they couldn't sack me because they needed me too much, so I was really, really the opposite of what you would think as an entrepreneur. So all of this was also a journey on the side. So property was one of the vehicles that got me into entrepreneurship, but all of this happened a little, me being a business owner of a tech startup right now, it's not something that I was running through my veins, since I was 12, I think I was 30 when I reached that for that, it's not, it's not, it's not been in my blood and veins since the beginning. So it was quite a learning.
Yeah.
And so then we moved into solving a problem for ourselves, really.
Yeah.
And then by accident, it happened that because of the traction we got so quickly, after that, it attracts some attention in our property circles. People ask can we have a look at it? And then we started to share it with our property friends of friends, people in our network, and then they started to refer people. And at the beginning, it was super clunky, we just built it for ourselves, And so, the feedback we were getting was, okay, this is interesting. There's something, and we realized that there was nothing quite like it. And there was nothing quite like it because a lot of the things we would find, there are software that can give you like data, but there's nothing that gives you, nothing that gives you a framework, like an actionable framework where, a framework where you would know what you need to do today, to progress, what's the next step, and the way it's been built is all about, what action do we need today, the handful of action to take today to progress. And it just quite unique in that way. And it's why people start to get results. And other than us, because, you always think there's something special about you, but there isn't. So when other people start to get more results and success than you, then when the traction started to kick in, really. And we now have more case studies of success of people finding deals, than any kind of software, around property. So we are in a really good positioning with people doing really well from it for where we are now.
Yeah. Well, considering the company is still relatively young, and you've only really just soft launched not that long ago. You've got hundreds of users already. You've got fantastic testimonials. We've talked about the amount of time this is saving. What are some of the other features and benefits that perhaps if someone went to your website, what are some of the key things that are really helping people?
Yeah, so this is where we are engineers and we are not really marketers. So people don't get it sometimes because we are not very good at explaining it. So I'll try to do my best. But it's what you said, about valuing one's time. So really, what we've done is we match and merge hundreds of data sources all in one place, in one platform, and we've built it under an interface, under a platform that people can use. It's quite simple. And the database we've done is really excellent. It's really above anything else. So I've it's not me telling this. I've heard this from. So we've hired people from. You guys must know about Purple Brick. The guys who founded Purple Brick, they then went on to. They wanted to disrupt Rightmove. They raised like 35 million and to create Booming, which was on for a few years. They were building it. And then they came flat on their face last year. They couldn't make it because it's really hard to compete with Rightmove. So I message all these guys, all the tech guys of their team, and the most senior of their guys is now working for us, helping us building Property Filter. So he was one of the founding tech guys basically to build Purple Brick, then went on to be the most senior one in Boomin and now works for us. And I know he looked at what we've done, and it's okay. I've been around this game for years and years, and what you've done is above anything else. If we think about the portals themselves, I'm not even talking about like property investors tools people have done in their garages. So really, it's the excellence of the database that we make available to people, all about finding deals. So it's all about finding deals. So it's very niche and focused for property investors to find deals. And it's not, it doesn't try to do other things. It's very niche and focused for that. And it's all about identifying motivated sellers, generating leads where you probably want to focus your energy on the top 5%, the top 10% of property that are around, and then a framework for you to convert these deals into great deals. And because it's a framework, because it's a step-by-step process, it makes success very predictable. People build very healthy pipelines. And then with deals, it's funny because it's people say, "Oh, well, I'm not looking right now, so I'll come and see you in a bit, But it's a bit like dating, It's when you don't, it's when you don't need it that it's coming to you all the time, So
yeah. It's great, and I think so many people will know the updating of the spreadsheet, right? And you've got to keep going back in and checking the links, and and then if you go on the site, you're seeing the same old properties day after day. But this is completely different, right? This is just pulling, as you say, pulling any update from absolutely everywhere on the internet. So all of the individual agents that are out there, as well as all of the sort of aggregated portals, and it's all there, right? Exactly as you want it, and as I say, just it's so time saving.
Yeah, so to go into more detail, so basically some of the features and benefits. So we find most property full address. You'll have the full postcode of all properties all the time. You'll know when a property. So it's the equivalent of having Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, prime location, lots of portals all in one place. So when you're on Property Filter, you don't need to look anywhere else. And we match and merge things. So when you go on Rightmove, the listings will be organized by agent listings. So it's why you'll have on page 1, you'll have one property with one agent, and page 4, you'll have the same property with another agent. And then people are very proud, when they find the match, it took them half a day, but so we match on Property Filter. So it's all property displayed, and then we have the different listings layered on top. So a property will have multiple listings from different agents, and you can have the history of previous agents listing it and failing to sell. So it's a great way, it's a great way to find deals, because when you see that one agent failed to sell a property, now listing with another agent, and sometimes you've got a chain like this of 3 or 4 agents, so you can always speak to agent 1 or agent 2 who lost the instruction. And the agents are funny, it's never their fault, when they lost an instruction, so they will tell you everything that's wrong about the property, everything, the vendor this, the vendor that, the property this, the property that. So it really gives you an edge, with these things. And there's so many ways with this. So the key thing is identifying signs of motivation and building up on like this data that gives you actionable steps. And sometimes people have grown because it's been so hard to find deals. Last year the vendors market, etc., which is now gone, but people have gone a lot more addicted to their Rightmove alerts and reacting, trying to be the first one to view a property. But the reality is that, this is really like observe the masses and do what the masses do, when you react to the Rightmove alerts. So you've got all this light refurb investor crowd, the homes under the armor crowd, just goes and try to look for this property when it's the market. But if you put yourself in the shoe of a vendor, it's quite common sense, really. So they've played with the idea of selling their house for a few months now. Then they decide they want to sell their house. They go on the likes of Zoopla and they ask for a valuation. This is actually a lead magnet for an agent. 3 to 5 agents will come and outbid each other to get their business. So it's like, oh wow, we bought this property in the 90s for 40,000 and we can now sell it for 350,000 plus. Incredible, they never expected that the value of their property is the reality. And then the best bidder agent basically puts it on the market. And then what happens, like there's thousands and Rightmove alerts that go out and everybody gets it, So on day one, they get 10, 15, 20 people viewing the property say, oh my God, the agent was right, And so the expectation is as high as it could be. And, it's probably the opposite of a definition of a motivated seller, So observe the mass and do the opposite, ditch the Rightmove alerts. They pile in your email inbox. It's junk. It's not, it's not good for you. But sometimes the agents are cheeky. So because we draw and we record all the listing history of a property, and this could be across multiple listings, multiple agents, and sometimes an agent can, to recreate and regenerate some interest, what they do, they'll delete one of the listings and they relist it as a new ID, as a new one. And so what it does is within Rightmove, it triggers that the emails to be sent out. And then, we are proud to bring to the market this brand new blah, blah, blah. You know how it is, And so with Property Filter, we see all of that, we see it coming on and off for the day. And you see them playing this game. So whilst, it might look like, it's brand new, you can see that it failed to sell 3 times before that. They reduced the price a couple of times, and it's the second agent involved basically with that.
A bit of a BS filter as well going on.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
No, it's really interesting, and clearly this is aimed for anyone who's investing in property for perhaps strategies, buy-to-let, HMOs. What about other people? Who is this suited to? Is it suited to commercial investors as well? And what about people doing something like a rent-to-rent strategy?
Yeah, so it's mainly been built for. So it's been built initially for us for the resi. So we've got really good data, really good features, really good filters for all the resi space. And then last summer we bolt on the commercial portals as well. And we've had people do. I think one guy did 3 commercial to resi deals found on Property Filter. He's putting all the money out on all of them. And then it's a similar kind of system where we match and merge things from different sources. Everything is in one place, and then we track, in your leads inbox, we identify the most motivated ones. There's like a motivated seller banner, and then amongst the 100 property that is listed, it tells you, okay, if you only do one thing today, go and look at these 5 ones or these two ones, and it's the same principle with commercial. We have the rental data, but that's more of a byproduct of us looking for properties, matching properties in our for sale as well as to rent. And we don't really market it for rent-to-rent people. So it's more of we'd like to say it's more of a serious tool for serious investors. So people who are more established in buying. And the truth is that although a property looks great, will stack as a rent-to-rent, you'll have the agent in the way that has a policy of we don't do corporate lets. So I don't, we've had people find rent-to-rent deals on Property Filter, but I don't claim this is it's not really, it's how people use it, but it's not really why we built it for.
Yeah. It certainly covers many, many bases, that's for sure. And, like any good business, it's rare that it's just one person, right? So there's always a team. You've alluded to some of the other people that you're working with, some of the other co-founders. And this is where it was interesting. We were talking the other day about wealth dynamics, right? And, both taking wealth dynamics. And I know you've done some education in the past as well. We'll talk about some of those other people, in the team in terms of coach and mentors and support. But tell us about, the dynamic with the people that you work with and how those wealth dynamics, work so well.
Yeah, so I got into property with my best man a few years ago. So I think 5 years ago in the UK, and I remember his speech at my wedding, and he says, "With Guillaume's leadership and my sense of organization, we've done this, and that." So we were he was organizing the holidays, and I was bringing the people basically, and we did so many things throughout uni and all our early professional life and stuff like that. And we never understood why this synergy always worked so well, until we took a wealth dynamic test. I don't know, it was 2018, I think. And then it's like, oh, wow, I'm a Blaze, he's a Steel, and I'm I'm a Star, he's more of a Lord mechanic. And then it just works really, really well, And I would say anybody listening to this, anybody going into entrepreneurship of anywhere, anybody wanting to understand more about life, have a greater understanding of people, how people work and interact with each other, I mean, you've got to take the wealth dynamic test just to understand yourself as a start, and then it will make a lot of sense. And then you'll stop, swimming against the tide, for certain things and tasks. And then you'll understand the team's dynamics, why people work well with one another. And as a business, there is no way, I could do this on my own. I am not concerned of my competition, because they are one-man band in their garages, building like stuff around data and property, but they don't stand a chance against a team of founder with complementary skill. And so I was off for the last 10 days because I had a baby. We were in neonatal care and things like that. We just came out of it yesterday, and the business is just steaming ahead, because I've got other founders, it's not even people on the team, it's people that are, driving it just as hard as me while I sleep,
Yeah.
And as a business, I mean, you are setting yourself for failure if you go on your own and you hire skills and people and deal with turnover of training and entrepreneurs. I've come to observe and learn, we are like head in the cloud, we are 100 miles an hour, and it's really hard to get people, it's quite hard to get people at our pace, and we can be impatient and things like that. So you can, by basically splitting 2 ways or 3 ways a business idea, you could go 100 times faster, further. So it's a no-brainer, like the size of the pie you get is just so huge. And then it's not like the business stops when you stop. It just goes on all the time, because there's always someone out there. So find people, understand wealth dynamics for yourself, understand teams dynamics, to surround yourself with people you share value. You've got complementary skills, you share end vision and end goal. And then, and then it's even emotionally, or, like if you think of burnout or tiredness or exhaustion, like you'll have ups and downs. And what you want is be with other people who've got ups and downs, but the likelihood is nobody's got downs in the same time, So there's always a high. There's always a high because there's the few of us. And I've seen so many one-man band, one-person band entrepreneurs where everything stops when they burn out. Everything stops when they can't do it anymore. Everything stops when finally after 2 years they want to take a bit of holiday, And so it's really setting yourself for success, teaming up with people. And I know one of the WealthBuilders pillar is JVs and things like that. So there's no way we would be where we are without this understanding, and there's no way we would be continuing at the pace we are as a business without this understanding and the team. And then it's also being really brutal with your. So we are engineers, we are not marketers. So it's really understanding your strengths and weaknesses. So we can build the best product, but how do we bring this to market? So it's where we identified the need that we needed a bit of a mentor, a bit someone to help. And so it's where a year ago we had, so because of my network, so Saj introduced me to Hanif Khan, who was our first investor, jumped a year ago, and his expertise is in property sourcing. So he, sort of 10, 12 years ago, he had a company training all the educators basically around property sourcing. We used to source like 600 deals a year. That was back in the days. And so this expertise and this network combined with what he's doing now is scaling startup companies. So he's been helping other founders in the tech world, like doing partnerships and stuff like that. So these are like 2 really strong skills we needed, and we find it in one person, which lives half an hour drive, 20-minute drive from where I am. So yeah. It's been we've gone on quite a bit of a journey to find an advisor, like a non-exec, that is really, because everybody wants to help you when people see you've got traction. So you'll have a lot of people reaching out to you, and then you think, oh well, they seem like they are an important person, they've got a name, and so on. But and you say, oh wow, such and such wants to jump in, it's great, But the reality is that your association with their name is nobody cares. So what is your advisor going to do for you in your business? And if he's just incredible, he's working as hard as us, it's as an investor, so it's really, really, really been great. And yeah, there's no way we'd be where we are right now if we didn't have a team. So we are 3 co-founders. So me, my best man, and his brother. So his brother is the tech guy. And if you go into a tech business, if you want to build like a tech startup or something like that, you can do it with non-founder, like non-tech founders, but it's really hard, because you are at the mercy of all those, like those developer, companies and stuff that build stuff for you, and then they send you a bill and so on. So we build everything in house. So people thought we were a bit crazy, at the beginning, because it's not the fastest and so on. And we invested a lot upfront in the infrastructure. So we've built it. So it didn't make sense what we did, basically. So most people with a startup, they create like a quick MVP that holds on with how do you call this, like silo tape and wires, and it's dingling away, and it's great because they can bring it to market really quick. But we tested. We had a lot of certainty of what we were building would work, because the risk is building something nobody wants. But because it worked for us, and it worked for people in our network, and we could see the traction people get, we thought, okay, if this gets people results so fast, we are onto something, so we invested a lot, and we front loaded the building of the infrastructure, which is not common in startups because you can't really afford to do that. But we could, because we had so the other founder did everything for the first few years. And we could do it in-house. We didn't spend a lot on external companies, which puts us now in a very good position where the quality of the database is the best out there. It's scalable. It's not clunky. It works really well. It's fluid, and the interface it's simple. And now we can add more people very fast into the platform without it breaking. Basically, like we've seen others in our space, struggling with maintenance. Or struggling with data being out of date or things like that, because very quickly it becomes a monster. So we've built it with the vision where we want it to be, with 10,000 people on it. So
yeah. Now, another friend of WealthBuilders that I know you've been working with is Daniel Hill from Property Entrepreneur, and Daniel's featured a couple of times on Wealth Talk, actually, back in episode 155 and 172. So, how did that come about, and what kind of support has Daniel been able to give you?
Yeah, so I'm a student of Dan. So I've been on his Property Entrepreneur course for 3 years. So it's really helped me with this entrepreneur mindset thing. So when I met Dan, I went to his Blueprint event 3 years ago now. I was still in working full time, and I was lying to myself. I was doing the HMOs and stuff, singlet and HMOs, but I was too comfortable in the job. It's really hard to. And then he taught me about journaling and stuff. So I've got stacks of them journals, with me here. And this is where you write things. This is really I had this big work and introspecting work on myself, where I decided, okay, let's go for it. Let's go with Property Filter, and he really helped me with that, and he's helped me ever since. As part of the Property Entrepreneur things and stuff like that. But for me, it was really this rewiring my brain from this employee to entrepreneur. And you can maybe see behind me. So these are Property Entrepreneur board, year of board. So this is 2021, the year of going all in, the year of transforming the tribe, 2022. And this year is the year of achieving orbit, where we launch something into space, but with an idea of a balance between with my personal life as well, with the baby just coming home yesterday. So
excellent. Everything begins with a plan.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the software, we've talked about the benefits, who it's for, and I guess in terms of your own personal wealth building, Guillaume, we've talked about, property is one of your strategies, business now as a strategy, you're doing joint ventures. You've also been raising funds for the business as well, haven't you? So, maybe just talk about what you did there to get some.
Yeah, so it started in property for me. So as I said at the beginning, because I'm a practical guy, I'm a concrete person. I like that in UK, I can add value, I can refinance. I can control the ROI, from the outset. I really like this predictability. So, you make money when you buy, so, I like that. So compared to giving money to a fund or something like that, where maybe you get maybe this year you get that much, maybe next year you lose, So I didn't like that. So I like property for this, the control I have on it. And especially
sorry
when
to interrupt, but you said to me the other day, when you came from France, you couldn't believe it in the UK, like how everyone wasn't doing property, right?
Yeah, I mean, in France, we don't have interest-only mortgages. We can't add value and refinance, so we can't raise more equity than the debt we have on an asset. So we can only get a loan bought back by another bank, basically. After it comes with, there are pros and cons as well. So you've got most of the mortgages in France are zero deposit, but they are all repayment mortgages. But there is no way someone can get into can replace an income for property in a matter of months or years in France, because all is repayment, and there is no way of generating monthly profit from the difference between the cost and the rent. And the way the system works in France is, yes, the interest rate will be lower. They will be fixed for a lot longer, like 20 years, 25 years. Like we'll have like buy-to-let mortgages at 2%, for 20 years, but it's all repayment. But the thing is the repayments, the rents don't cover the repayments. So you are stuck in a job, and you need, if you want to scale your portfolio, you need to have evolution in your job so that you can basically pay for the properties, so 50 euros, 100 euros a month, just to subsidize it. But the good thing is that in 20 years, you're millionaire, like you're laughing because you have no debt, anywhere. So it's a bit of a different culture. But in terms of having your cake and eating it and having it right now, interest-only mortgages are magical here. And the fact that you can refinance. So the first deal we bought with Property Filter was on the market for 250. I think it was reduced a couple of times down to 225. Listed with 3 different agents. So this is us matching and seeing that there was a story. And then at the end, we went direct to vendor on it. We only spoke to the vendor, and we bought it for 173, and it's now worth 450, which means you get all the money out. There was also some refurb cost, of course, but to make it an HMO, etc. But you can't do this in France. I couldn't use the same cash on one project and another one and the next one. I know we've recycled our cash on a few projects now. So that's quite. We say in France, like Parisians don't go on the Eiffel Tower. So you guys don't realize the pot of gold you're sitting on. So
yeah.
And if a French guy can do it, you can too.
It's an interesting point, and again, something I think Dan picked up on and talks about is sometimes you've got to design your life in order to get the result you want, and that means sometimes, stepping into a different area, a different location, or changing your habits in order to be able to start building wealth. And I think that's a great example of how that's really, really helped you to accelerate things.
So it's really how it started, like with property and getting a bit of traction in property, and then learning to be an entrepreneur. So Dan helped me, quite a bit. And then when we incorporate, with Property Filter, then it's quite different. So it's a business, and it's quite a different, it's quite a different beast altogether. And in technology, it's all, it's quite different as well. So we did, because we're a bit, I'm the equivalent of a Yorkshireman, in France. So I'm a bit tight, so from where I'm from. So we bootstrap, so it's what we do. So we like to engineer our environment so that it's a bit challenging. We burn the boats. And we bootstrap, because it's life or death, and we need to make it happen. And I think it's the accountability I needed, and it's what we do. So initially, what we've done, we just so in terms of people starting businesses, if you need funding, so there are something called startup loans you can get, which are quite cheap loans, especially in the current climate for businesses. They come with there are loans. I think you can borrow 25,000 in your personal name per director for the use of the business. So if you are 2 directors, you can have 50 grand, 3 directors, 75 grand, etc. You need to be UK resident, and then you need to present like a business model or something like that. It's a game. Play. Understand the rules, play the game. So make it work. But they are a very high success rate, and they want it's a government subsidized scheme, and the private people you speak to, like I can't remember the name of the bank, they want to make it work, so they'll advise you and help you, but really you will have to really be how do you say, be very I forget the term, but basically you just understand the rules of the game, fill the spreadsheet and stuff like that, and 80% of people get the loan, and that really helps you start it, and it's repaid over 5 years or 6 years. I think 5 years. You can have an interest-free period, but basically it's for a trading business, so for just to kickstart things at the beginning, and you need to be confident that you're going to make the money to pay back the repayment of the loan. So I think we did this in 2 tiers. So we had an initial tier with we took 60% of the money at some point. We had an interest-free period for a while, and then as we started to get revenue, this allowed us to unlock the second tranche, and it's how we got sort of started. And then as you start to get traction, we used the CDIS scheme. So I know for some of your listeners that can be interesting as a funder as well. So it's really, really interesting. So it's for early stage, high risk startup businesses. You are incentivized if you invest, and you get in your own name. So you can't invest from a company or a group structure or anything like that. It needs to come from your own name. You can, and that's on new subscription of shares on the business. You can get 50% of your investment back of your tax bill. So typically some of our investors, they put $20K in to get a small share in the business. And the cost to them is $10K because half of it was written off by HMRC on their tax. So if you're paying tax and you got cash around, it's obviously do your due diligence in what you invest in, but that's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good advice there. And multiple streams of income for you, Guillaume: property, business, IP that you've created, joint ventures. So, really following what we talk about at WealthBuilders, which is, diversification. It gives you confidence, it gives you peace of mind, and it's exciting, right? It's learning.
Yeah. So we're going to have to plug Dan Hill again. But so basically something that flipped my head around with property entrepreneur is this very simple concept of what he calls the wealth pyramid. And I think he must have talked about this in your wealth talk. And at the basis, you've got cash flow, profits, and assets. And what I realized is that with property, I was, it was all mixed and blurry. And so it's multiple streams of income, but for different purposes. So I now got my personal lifestyle and bills paid by, my salary that comes from the trading business, from Property Filter. And then I've got the property business that compounds, the rent, the rent, is just going to be used to compound and buy more property. So separating it, where before it was a bit more, drawing money from property and things like that. So you can have a cash flow business, from really in property, but you don't need to, So for us, it's how we've set it up. And then some of the property projects we do are in joint venture. Some of it are in our name. Some of it are under other companies for different purposes. So I've got the HMOs in one company. I've got the singlets in another company, and then we are offsetting some of the costs by getting more and more in our own name as well. Some of the singlets.
Yeah. I could talk all day to you, Guillaume. It's so fascinating, hearing your story and the way that you've structured and you're approaching everything. But for our listeners, I'm sure they're just eager to, have a look at Property Filter and understand what it does. So what we've done, we've put together a page, which is wealthbuilders.co.uk/property filter, where there'll be a link where you can go and watch some videos, you can get access, but we're also going to add some additional support and benefits by following that link. So do head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/property filter for all the information as to how you can learn more and get started and get some extra support from ourselves as well. So Guillaume, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And, I know you've literally, as you mentioned, just had your first child. And
yep.
I can hear a few little cries from next door, so I'm going to let you go. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be having you back on the podcast again soon to share some more exciting updates with us.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Chris, and looking forward to see you guys and work with you when you sign up and try Property Filter out. Thanks so much.
Thanks again. Okay, I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation there with Guillaume. I certainly enjoyed that one. And Kevin, we will dive into the many lessons that I think we can pull out of that in just one moment. But before we do that, let's pull out our latest review on Trustpilot, and not read out any for a little while. So Stephanie has kindly left us a few words, and Stephanie says, joining WealthBuilders has given me the confidence to progress my wealth building journey through the property pillar. When I joined, I was stuck trying to buy property locally where that was unaffordable. And the connections I have made through WealthBuilders has enabled me to take the necessary steps to move forward. And I'm thankful for all the support from my coach and other members of the community. And I'm excited about continuing my journey through more property investment, including the use of a SSAS.
You know, there's a few lessons just in that review. And I'm sure some of those will be equally applicable to the interview you had with Guillaume as well. One of those is the whole idea of having different people with different perspectives giving you something else to think about. Because more often than not, when we're trying to build wealth, we're trying to break the current comfort zone that we're in, the current routine that we're in, whether it's in our job, in our businesses. And this, more often than not always, forces us to be different, forces us to think differently. And when you do that, it causes tension. And that tension is best overturned when somebody else can help you hold it, when somebody else can help you in the end break it. So that elasticity completely then breaks for you to be free to pursue another direction. And this is true of Stephanie. This is true of Guillaume. But it's getting people and surrounding yourself with people who are thinking on your side. And that's tough, isn't it? Because there's no shortage of people who would try and deprive you of your precious money. And of course, your precious time, which is often the big challenge. So the more that you can plug yourself in to a community that you can trust, and of course, I'm advocating WealthBuilders as such a community, but there are others as well, but also surrounding yourself with people who've got expertise that can make a distinction, give you an edge, sharpen your saw so that you can make the changes more quickly. And that's definitely true of Stephanie, and we've worked with Stephanie. And you can see it's obvious in the experience Guillaume had as an engineer first, you know, and what did he say? He said, I thought that was my job for life. It's my childhood dream. But be careful what you wish for, I think he said.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not about wishing for that. It's we all change over time. And I think inevitably when you decide to become an entrepreneur, you've got to think about value. And this is almost the point I made about the children, isn't it? You've got to see value and understand value to be able to create value. And Guillaume's done a great job in looking at this country, looking at this market, and looking at what's going on to spot opportunities that his particular business, I think, has done an outstanding job in being able to help. And I think that the proof of that, of course, will come from his reviews and what people say. Do they get the result they want from availing themselves of the services of his business, Property Filter?
Yeah. Well, the early reviews are definitely good. I've seen those. And we talk about people becoming accidental landlords. Guillaume almost becoming the accidental entrepreneur there. But a really good lesson perhaps we can sort of hone in on is how you need to validate your business idea, because a lot of people put time, energy, money, resources into something that they're very excited about, only to realize that nobody else is that excited about. So there's a way to validate, and that really begins with obviously identifying a problem first and foremost, and Guillaume certainly did that. But then you've got to make sure there's a problem that is a problem for enough other people as well. So that's where you've got to have enough of a market that obviously are willing to spend money, and that ties into one of your lessons, Kevin, about finding a tight niche as well.
Yes, as far as WealthBuilders are concerned, We know that we are not gurus here. We are healthy and open-minded guides, almost acting a bit like a financial GP, calling in experts whenever you need to. And that general knowledge has been built up over 30 years. So I think we've got some credibility to be good guides. But looking for people who are outstanding in a niche, that's the language I use. Who do you know who's outstanding? Not mediocre, not decent, outstanding in their niche. And that's what we're trying to do, is build our partnering relationships with people who are outstanding in their niche. But you can't be outstanding until you start. And because you've got to discover your niche first, and then you have to, as you say, validate the business, get a minimal viable product, get that tested. And more often than not, the best way to test it is to allow some people to avail themselves of your service so that you can build that reputation, you can build those testimonials. So you don't have to worry about the pricing at the beginning. Just get people to test it, get people to use it, iron out your lessons. And that's what Guillaume's done. And to a certain extent, we did that in WealthBuilders way back when we started it. We tested it with people and said, hey, this isn't perfect. We're going to get better at this, but this is the first time we tried to create it as a series of step-by-step lessons. Will you give it a go, and will you give us feedback? And that's basically how we approach WealthBuilders, and that's, to a certain extent, how Guillaume is doing with.
Well, give a nod to all of our founder members who are still with us, most of them even today. And, the academy and the program that we created is very, very different now from what it was when we launched back in 2019. But and the other thing really important is anyone going into business I would recommend try and find somebody else to go into business with. And it's very, very difficult when you're trying to do everything by yourself. And this ties in with Wealth Dynamics as well.
It does. I mean, the interesting issue with Wealth Dynamics, which is your sort of, your compass point for self, and then you balance out the north, south, east, and west, wherever you are. It's a difficult one, though, Chris. I'll caveat your thoughts with a lesson, though, that it's good to find people where you can get distinctions. You don't always have to go into business with them, because you can get distinctions from a coach. You can get distinctions from your, let's call it the founders. You can get distinctions in other ways, because there's a big danger when people set up businesses. And I've fallen into that trap, not just once, Chris, but twice, where I was enjoying the interaction with somebody else, and then they didn't end up working as well as I thought, and not getting the right agreements in place, not getting the right documentation in place, doing things more from the gut call. And I think that's a lesson I've learned, being much more in the dynamic space, making gut calls more than technically accurate legal calls. And I've paid the price, not a massive price, just relationship price, really, of having to get out of two relationships which weren't working for me. So I think you need that time to make that determination. Just to reassure the audience, Chris, you're not one of them.
I was going to say, let's hope it's that time lucky.
Well, I'm delighted that we've done correct legal guidance and agreements with you and with Paul Brooks, again, who's invited to be part of the board of WealthBuilders, and delighted, Chris, that we've done that. And actually, we gave ourselves 4 or 5 years to do that, didn't we? So we didn't just come in and not that we're sharing too much here, but it wasn't come in, here's some shares. It was come in, let's see how it works. And then we gave ourselves plenty of time, and we've done that. So I'm thrilled with that decision. I won't make the same mistake again. So, I would give that bit of guidance to anybody. Yes, work with other people, but when you go into business with people, literally you're in business with them like a marriage for life. And you want to make sure you've done all the right legal and financial and relationship preparation to make that work. I know it's early days for Guillaume, and I'm not suggesting anything will go wrong there. I don't know anything about that, but it's just a general bit of guidance that I would give, having learned lessons myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And joint ventures, of course, is one of our 7 pillars of wealth. And we teach our members how to do joint ventures correctly and how to be safe. And it always begins with building that relationship, not rushing into things. So, some key lessons there. Another important factor of any business startup is funding and money. And often businesses run out of money, and that's one of the downfalls. So Guillaume mentioned some investment schemes that, he had used as well. So what's your experience, Kevin, of people when they're looking for funding for an early stage business?
Yeah, it's very difficult, as you said, because the minimum viable product is normally what a fund is going to be looking for. Is there some evidence that enough people will demand this? So you need really good preparation, not unlike a sort of a Dragon's Den scenario, really, where you need some numbers and you need to have numbers, or you need people who are willing backers. Now, obviously, we can within joint ventures, you can help yourself, because there are ways to access your pension to help a business idea, for example, through the concept of SSAS. And you heard Stephanie mention that, and many thousands now have been helped to be able to help themselves. CDIS, which is just a form of enterprise investment scheme, but seed means raising seed capital. There's a way to do it. I've seen people do things with crowdfunding, including crowdfunding for non-profit. So there are many ways. So learning how to access funding, and not least if you've got joint ventures with people who you do want to work with, then it would be a reasonable expectation that those people bring something to the table, whether it's wherever the funding come from. But the other lesson, though, Chris, on funding, I would say here is essentially when it comes to property, which is Guillaume's business. We've written a little, what would you call it, infographic?
Yeah, it's like a worksheet which helps property investors. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've written a one which is called the 7 Fs. So the 7 stages of a successful property business, ranging from the finding the property in the first place, and which in the end, if you don't start, you don't ever get to be successful. So I think the very essence of Property Filter is helping with the finding. And he very ably demonstrated, some of the tricks of the trade the estate agents play to fool people into thinking. But he did mention this whole idea of, or if he didn't mention explicitly, you can imply it, which is you have to understand the mindset of the, let's say, the motivated seller. And a motivated seller is one who wants to achieve a result. So it's in the same way, you have to look at value. You have to look at what value you're bringing in, the techniques to bring properties to almost look like they're brand new listings and so on. And I like the way he described the psychology of an initial seller who, when they first bring their property to the market, they're full of expectation, full of optimism for what they'll get, and they're not motivated at all. They're still in that early glow of hoping they're going to do a lot better. But anyway, the 7 stages, Chris, and I won't go into the detail of them, but I'll mention them just to see if there's enough interest. We could create that as a download for our listeners to the podcast, which is, find it, art of discovering opportunities in the first place, then fund it. And funding comes very quickly on the back of that as a whole different set of skills around funding. Fix it, do whatever work needs to be done to add value. Fill it, well, let's assume there's a tenant or tenant type, so get the property yielding a return. Then flow it, in other words, getting to a point where you're creating a flow, you're multiplying that activity, that action, you're turning wheels, as we term it. You then create a formula for your own success so that you know how everything works. Now you systemize it. And when you do that, it's freedom, because you don't need to be involved. I see so many people, though, try and take shortcuts on that journey. They'll try and find somebody else to find. Nothing wrong with sourcing, but you've got to source or use sources with integrity and with a reputation. So many examples of people paying for sourcing or paying for fixing of properties, which really they've been scammed out of money. And so it's very, very dangerous. So you must spend time in your due diligence with every relationship on that journey, and don't try and accelerate that to the point of cheating it and hoping, somebody else is doing a better job. You have to learn the work that needs to be done to then ably delegate it, because delegation with responsibility is where this is at, not delegation that turns into abdication. And we see that in all aspects of life, and none more so, I think, Chris, in our wealth building pillars and pensions and investments. We see people just giving their money to third parties, hoping that one day, someday, things are going to turn out. And invariably, they don't.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that 7F formula there, Kevin. And I think the formula, the second to last one as well, is where IP can be created, isn't it? Once you've systemized and packaged it up, then you can ultimately generate an income stream from that as well. If you choose.
Exactly right. Or a franchise or a license. There's so many different ways you can create value once you've got the formula. But you have to nail the formula, not just hope the formula works, because it's not formulaic unless it's a genuine system that's been tried and tested many, many times from all different actors. So good point. So we'll make that available, shall we?
Yeah, sure. So, if someone would like to download that, if you're listening, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/7F, F for Freddy, F for formula. And we will, we'll make that available for you. No problem at all. So I think that probably wraps things up for today, Kevin. Did you have any final points you'd like to make?
No, I think you pulled out all the good lessons and we've touched on so many of them today. And I think it's been a good episode, and I'm glad I'm back and participating again and looking forward as we inch ever so slowly towards episode 200. Feels like, we need to be celebrating or doing something at 200, Chris.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll have a chat next time we see each other, which will be tomorrow, in fact.
Yes.
When we see each other, maybe we'll have a little chat about that.
Yeah, let's have a party. And we met for a bit of golf as well, didn't we, last week? So that was nice.
Some of us played golf.
Yeah. Some of us just whacked some balls wildly around the course.
Something
anyway,
like.
Always room for improvement, Kev.
Yeah, almost exactly right. You're turning up and you're participating, and that's great. And Paul, God bless Mr.
Played a blinder.
2 birdies.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never seen him get 2 birdies before, but there you go. What an impressive round.
Yes, that was fun.
That was good. Yeah.
Well, good to have you back, Kevin. And we hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. If you did, why not share it with somebody that you know who might also find this helpful, or someone who's in property. And just one final reminder, if you want to find out more about Property Filter, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/property filter, and you'll be able to sign up for a free trial and even get a little bit of an extra special Wealth Builder discount should you wish to give that software a go. So all the details, the video, you can see exactly how it works, what it looks like, and sign up for a free trial to give it a go. So all right, take care, Kevin. We'll catch up same time, same place next week.
We will do indeed. And until next time, my friend, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.